In a small village, there was a young man named Karim. Karim lived a simple and quiet life, but he had a great desire in his heart, a dream that he had always had since he was young, to become an adventurer who explores distant and unknown places. He imagined himself climbing high mountains, crossing dense forests, and sailing the vast oceans. But there was one thing that prevented him from pursuing this dream: fear. Karim was afraid of failure, of the unknown, and of leaving his small village where everything was familiar and safe. Whenever he thought about adventure, fear would control him, convincing him to stay where he was, where there was no danger or unpleasant surprises. One day, while Karim was sitting under a large tree contemplating his life, an old man who lived in the village approached him. The old man was known for his wisdom and calmness, so he sat next to Karim and said to him, "My son, I see in your eyes a great desire, but it is chained with fear. Tell me, what would you do if you were not afraid?" Karim was surprised by the old man's question, but he thought for a moment and then replied, "If I wasn't afraid, I would have left this village that same day and traveled to explore the world. I would have lived my adventures and achieved my dreams." The old man smiled and said, "Then, make this fear a motivation for you, not an obstacle. Fear will always be there, but the difference between those who achieve their dreams and those who remain stuck in place is what they do with fear. Don't let your fear drive you. Let your courage drive your fear." Karim understood the old man's words and began to think about whether he could turn his fear into motivation. That night, after much thought, he decided to challenge his fear and walk towards his dream. He gathered his few belongings, said goodbye to his family and friends, and set off on his journey into the unknown. The first days were difficult, and fear accompanied him at every step, but he always remembered the old man's advice and used his courage to face every obstacle. He went through adventures he had never imagined, discovered amazing places, and met new friends. Over time, the fear began to fade, replaced by a sense of freedom and ecstasy. After years of travel and adventure, Karim returned to his village. He was no longer the scared young man, but a man full of stories and experiences. He sat under the same tree he had sat under with the old man and realized that everything had changed. He had lived the dream he had always had, and the secret to that was his courage in the face of fear. When he remembered the old man's question, "What would you have done if you weren't afraid?" Karim smiled, because now he knew the real answer: "I did."